so let's look at our morning work. I'm going to get it passed back to you. So your homework tonight is going to be very similar. Y'all please be careful with these hot chocolates out. Your morning work, your homework tonight is going to be very similar to this morning work. Oh, pass your red pens to the front very carefully. Pass red pens to the front very carefully. Cooper's going to come by and grab them and put them up for me. Please be very careful. Watch where you're walking. Pay attention to what is going on around you. Now, this morning work was a little tough, right?
Yes, ma'am.
This is going to be very similar to your test. Whenever we put all of these fraction skills together, it gets tough. So you really need to go over this with me. You really need to be talking to me while we go over it. You need to make sure that you understand what we do. Ask questions if you don't. You to write the correct answer down on here, okay? So you don't have to erase on here. You can just write it with it on there. All right, so everybody should get their own paper. Addison, Lily, Kaylee, y'all be careful handing these back. Brooklyn, Darby, Ivy Kate, Parker, Hannah Cooper, Ryder and Hallie Claire, Robert, all right, so on number, on number one, read number one for me, Darby. All right, so you had to write factor pairs. So how many numbers are in a pair, boys and girls? Two numbers. So it wanted you to group these in twos. Now, if it doesn't tell you to write factor pairs, then that's when we kind of do our rainbow, like 1 and 48, right? Now, we're just going to write our pairs. So we always start with what number? 1 and
48.
All right. After 1, we check what? 2. Does 2 work?
Yes.
How do we know?
Because you can divide. Even number.
Because 48 is an even number. Now, 2 times what?
24.
If you didn't know what went here, you'd have to draw your bracket. Did I give you homework? Yeah, I did. Good catch. That is. There you go. You're welcome. All right, so now let's check 3. Will 3 work? What should you do to see if 3 works? Add it. What's 4 plus 8?
12.
Will 3 go into 12?
Yes.
So you better have 3 right here because 3 works. If you don't know 3 times what, then this is the only way you can know.
What if you go out of order? Yeah.
It's okay if they're out of order, but that's dangerous. Because if you go out of order, you are more likely to skip one. And now this one, not so much because I had the blanks. You know you had to keep looking. But once you start doing this, which is what you're going to do most of the time, if you skip a number, you're probably going to miss it. Because you're not going to remember to come back to it. All right, so 3 times what?
16.
16. Will 4 work?
Yes.
4 times?
12.
And you don't have to write your pairs like this, but I like to because, look, I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I need to check 5. Will 5 work?
No.
Cut because
It doesn't have
it doesn't have over 0. Good. Will 6 work?
Yes.
How do we know?
Because 2 and 3.
If you have 2 and 3 up there, you also have to have what?
6.
6.
Oh.
6 times what?
8.
Alright, but you still need to check 7. Does 7 work?
No.
Because 7 times 7 is 49. Alright, does 8 work?
Yes, it's already
up there, so that means what?
We're done.
Good, we're done. Alright, so check yours. If you missed it, do you understand why you missed it?
Yes,
If you got them out of order, you wouldn't miss it. But just remember, if you get them out of order, you're more likely to mess up whenever you're doing the factors like we're going to do here. Now, let's look at number 2. Ivy Kate, read number 2 for us.
Is 74,010 a multiple of 3? Explain.
So if we're looking at multiples of 3, what's our trick, boys and girls?
Add them together.
Add those numbers together. So let's add them. What's 7 plus 4?
11.
What's 11 plus 1?
12.
Alright, so I got 12. Will 3 divide evenly into 12?
Yes.
So, is it a multiple of 3?
Yes.
Yes. And we're going to explain it using our rule.
I explained it. I think that.
I basically explained it.
7 plus 4 plus 1 equals to what?
12.
This is going to be the easiest way. 12 will divide by 3. Now, you could say yes, because it will divide evenly. That's okay. Parker's, yours was good because I read yours while I was passing it out. But you have to give me a why. You can't just say yes. First, did you tell me yes? Second, did you tell me why? And you can't just say because it's a multiple. You got to tell me why it's a multiple. Does that make sense? Well then,
I divided and I got yes.
whenever you divided, you should have gotten yes.
I divided and I got yes and I said.
All right? Just remember your tricks. All right, let's look at the next one. Find the factors of each number. Now, this is when you're supposed to be writing them with your parentheses, right? Then we're going to tell whether it's prime, composite, or neither. So what I want everybody to do, let's put our clue word above prime. What's our clue word?
Picky.
Picky. Write that above there. And then what should we write above neither?
1 and 0. 1 and 0 and 1.
Because that's the only two numbers that can be neither. All right, so let's look at 24. Let's find my factors, and we got to go in order. We're going to go, make sure y'all paying attention to me and not this hot chocolate. 1 and
24.
24.
2
2, 12. Will 3 work?
Yes.
Because 4 plus 2 is 6. 3 and
8.
will 4 work?
Yes.
4 and 6. Does 5 work?
No.
Does 6 work?
It's already out there.
Get those hands out off of that face. It's already out there, so we're done. So now on this little line, is 24 prime, composite, or neither?
Composite.
Because
It's more than 1 in itself.
it likes more than 1 in itself, right? Yes, sir, Parker?
If you know your factors good enough, can't you write like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 6, 8, 12, and 24?
That's what I do for 12. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
Yep, if you, like I said, if y'all know these multiplication facts, it's going to make it so much easier. All right, so let's look at 83. What are my factors of 83?
183.
What else?
That's it.
Because you should know that 83 is a what kind of number?
Prime.
It only likes,
It's 1 times itself.
and the only way you're going to know that is by studying that prime and composite sheet, right? All right, so now's when we get to the good stuff. This is the stuff that got confusing for you. You need to listen up. If you're not paying attention and participating, it's not going to stick. It's not going to sink in what's going on. Now, when we write an equivalent fraction, I want you to underline equivalent fraction. Underline equivalent fraction. Why are we not doing that? What is the only thing you have to worry about with equivalent fractions?
Whatever you, the golden rule.
That golden rule.
Whatever you do.
So let's write that. Whatever I do to the top, I must do to the, or if I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the. Now, of course, we're talking about multiplication or division, so put that up there. You can't add because we're not adding these fractions. Now, what do equivalent fractions tell us? They name the same amount. Good. Now, you could have done several things. You could have divided, which is simplified. You could have made it smaller. Who made theirs smaller? Hallie Claire, what'd you get?
I got 3/4 because I
Good.
divided it by 4.
Hallie Claire divided 12 by 4 and 16 by 4, so she got 3/4. Robert, what'd you get?
6/8.
All right, so you divided by 2 on top, divided by 2 on bottom. Did anybody do anything different?
I'll multiply by
You can multiply by what now?
2.
Lily multiplied by 2.
I got
So Lily should have got 24 over
32.
32. What'd you do, Darby? By 10. That's what I would do. I would multiply the top and bottom by 10, because guess what happens whenever you multiply by 10?
You just add a 0.
You just put a 0 on the end of it. Now, if you didn't do either one of those, then you can do this with me. Equivalent fractions are easy because all you have to do is do the same thing to the top that you do to the bottom. And what two operations are we talking about?
Multiplication or division.
Yes, multiplication or division. And really quickly before we move on, equivalent fractions name.
The same amount.
Very good, the same amount. Now, number 5 is a little different because you have to find equivalent fractions, but they've given you the denominator. So they've obviously done part of the golden rule, but they haven't done all of it. So you've got to look between these two. How did 9
Times 5.
change to 45? Y'all got to wait till I get, you've got to wait till I get the whole question out of my mouth, because if y'all answer before me, somebody who doesn't understand it is missing half of that. So how can 9 change to 45?
Times 5.
So if you write, and you should have this written on your paper, times 5 on the bottom, what has to go on top?
40.
Times 5. You should have times 5 on top and on bottom. Did y'all show me that? What is my new numerator?
40.
40
45ths, right? Does this make sense with equivalent fractions? Equivalent fractions, what should you follow?
The
golden
The
rule.
golden rule. Same thing to the top that you do to the bottom. All right. Now, so equivalent fractions name, everybody says what?
Same amount.
Everybody.
Same amount.
Equivalent fractions name, everybody.
The same amount.
Everybody's got to tell me.
The
Same amount.
Equivalent fractions name the same amount. Now, whenever we get to simplest form, what's the first word that should pop in your head with simplest form?
Find your factors.
Factors. Find your factors. I want you to write factors up above it. Oh, yeah, stop doing that. Now, for simplest form, my first step is to what?
Find your factors.
Then,
Find your GCL.
all right, look, more people's got to be talking stuff for Hallie Claire and Barker. All right, I want to hear everybody. Y'all, what's my first step?
Find your factors.
Then,
Circle your GCL.
then,
Divide.
good, because I got to know that y'all all can do this. Now, we're going to write our factors for 10 100ths. Did anybody use the trick? Did you use the trick? You could have used the trick on here.
I did.
If you didn't, we're going to do it the normal way first, and then we'll come back and do the trick. All right, so what are my factors of 10? Now, I should see these factors. Put that down. On every single person's papers.
1 and 10.
All right, 1 and 10. Then,
2 and 5.
all right, 3 doesn't work, 4 doesn't work, 5's already up there. Now, you should know these factors of 100 pretty good.
1 and 100.
Hang on, go slow. 1 and 100.
2 and 50.
Go slow.
4.
Go slow. 4 and,
25.
all right.
5 and 20.
And then I gotta squeeze 10 down there.
10.
Now, what is my GCF?
10.
Start from this side and go this way so we can find the bigger one. All right, my GCF is 10. So did you circle that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you put your division symbols?
Yes, ma'am.
So remember, I want you to go backwards. What times 10 is 10?
1.
I'm going to write mine down here. What times 10 is 100?
10.
So 10 hundredths in its simplest form is what?
1/10.
1/10. Now, flip your paper over for me. I want you to rewrite that 10 100ths on there. You better hurry up. Now, anytime I have a numerator and denominator that both have a 0 on them, you can use your trick. You can divide the simplest form because we're dividing, right? Honk, blow it, baby, and then you gotta throw it away. You can't sit there and keep doing that. Blow it and then throw it away. So I'm going to divide by 10 by doing this. Mark them out. You should be doing this with me on the back. Everybody. Did y'all mark out your zeros? Yes, sir, Parker?
Don't you basically get your answer whenever you mark out the zeros?
You do. Once I mark out my answers, what does my fraction change to?
1/10.
All right, so write that beside it. But you need to make sure that 1/10 is in simplest form. How can I look at 1/10 and know it's in simplest form?
Because it has a 1 on top.
It has a 1 on the top.
That's
What
a
do we
unit
call?
fraction.
Very good.
Unit
Unit
fraction.
fractions. Let me add this up over here because that's important. Unit fractions have a what on top?
1.
And if the numerator is a multiple of the denominator is going to be a unit fraction.
Yeah.
And we're done. But here's the thing. I did something to this, right? I scratched that out, which means I divided by what?
10.
I divided by 10. This isn't already in simplest form, correct? This one. Thank you, girls, so much. Hang on, I need a hug.
Where does this go?
Probably Miss Irby next door. Yeah, she'll be right that door right down there, okay? Thank you, girls.
Let's go. Let's go.
Alright, so now on to our next one, 327, simplest form. What's my first step? Simplest form. Find your factors. My factors of 3 are 1 and 3. My factors of 27 are 1 and 27.
3 and 9.
3 and 9. Good. That's why I put that one on there because people will say, oh, it's prime. Nope, it's not. Now, what's my GCF?
3.
Make sure y'all have this. I'm checking these papers.
And then you divide.
Hang on, slow. We gotta go slow. Do y'all have this circled?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have what I have?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So let's go this way and say what times 3 is 3.
1.
Go this way. What times 3 is 27.
9.
So 3 27ths in its simplest form is 1/9. 3 27ths and 1/9 are also equivalent fractions. Good. Yes, sir, Ryder?
It's a unit fraction.
Very good. It is a unit fraction, so you know it can't get any smaller. Good. Parker, yes, sir?
If you didn't know the multiples of 3, couldn't you use your trick to see if 3 and 9 was going to be 1?
Yeah, you
Mhm.
could.
Yeah.
You could add 7 and 7 and get 9.
Yep. And that's the whole reason Parker said, well, couldn't you use your trick for 27? That right there is your whole reason why I taught you all those tricks. Yes, it helped. So, yes, with factoring, but aren't we factoring this 27 right now?
You could use it for 9.
Yeah.
Since every multiple of 3 would be a multiple of 9.
Exactly. So you know that it works. So you know you can make this smaller, right? Yes, ma'am, Hallie Claire?
Like, I just told that 7 plus 2 is 9,
Mhm.
and your denominator is 9. Is that always going to be the same?
No, not necessarily. Yes, that was just a coincidence. Yes, sir, Ryder?
Sometimes people might get confused with that. Like that.
Yes.
Because they think 27 is
They will think that it's prime. But if you know your tricks, right? Because it doesn't take you long to do 7 plus 2, right?
And they'll get confused if you, because they'll forget that 3 is still a factor of both of them.
That is exactly right. And they like to use those 3s and those multiples of 9 too. All right, so let's look at 4. Cooper, in your seat. What are my factors of 4? 1 and 4. Then 2 and 2, right? Any more? All right, now we've got to find my factors of 21. 1 and 21.
3 and 7.
3 and 7. All right, so look at this. What is my GCF?
1.
So what does that mean?
It's already in simplest form.
So it wanted you to write simplest form, and you had to have it written out somewhere.
I still put 420.
And it's okay if you did this. If you put equals to, because that's it. This is as small as it can get. So do y'all have this down? All right, let's look at number 7. Order the fractions from.
Least is greatest.
That's not what I read.
Greatest is least.
Y'all better be careful, because if you do it backwards, I can't give you credit for it. Now, what I want everyone to do is I want everyone to flip over to the back of this. And let's write down these 3 fractions.
I know it's 19.
Hang on. We're not jumping. Y'all are jumping and we can't jump. We've got to go slow through this. All right, so on the back, you've got to write 3 24ths, 3 fourths.
3/4.
Make sure you have enough room to write underneath it. 19 over 24 and then 7 over 12. When we compare fractions, this is the way that I want you to do it, whether it says benchmark or not. I want you to do it this way. Now, this one didn't say benchmark, but the way to compare fractions and know that they are correct is to find that common denominator, the common multiple. Not a factor, but a multiple. Multiples are like when we...
Multiply.
Y'all aren't paying attention to me. We're not doing hot chocolate again because y'all aren't paying attention to me. Multiples are like when we what?
Skip count.
Skip count, because I need more than 3 people participating. So, if I skip count by my 4s, by my 24s, by my 12s, there's going to be a number in common. But remember I told you, my new common multiple, my new common denominator, can't be lower than any of these. Now, it might be the same, but it can't be lower. It can't be lower than 4. It can't be lower than 24, and it can't be lower than 12. The smallest number that it could possibly be would be what? Would be 24, because it's the biggest, right?
And you can multiply it by
Now, what is my least common denominator?
24.
24. Do anybody use anything different whenever you did it?
I didn't write it out.
Because you could have used 36.
Do we have to write it?
Yes, you have to do this with me.
No, like on the front.
Back here you do. Now, we're going to make equivalent fractions, because look at these. Are these like fractions as they are?
No.
No, they're not. They're not like, because they have different...
Denominators.
All right. Now, we said that my new denominator is going to be what?
24.
24, 24, 24. Why did I pick 24?
Because that's your
Lily, are you with me? We're writing.
That's your lowest common factor.
That's the lowest multiple of 4, 24, and 12. If I skip count by 4, will I land on 24? I need more than one person.
Yes.
If I skip count by 24, will I land on 24?
Yes.
If I skip count by 12, will I land on 24?
Yes.
Yes. So now, we've got to make those equivalent fractions by following the...
Golden rule.
How does 4 change to 24?
Times 6.
So if I do times 6 here, I got to do times 6 here. So what's my new numerator?
18.
All right. How did 24 stay a 24?
Times 1.
So if I do times 1 on the bottom, I do times 1 on the top.
And you get 19.
And it just stays the same, right?
Mhm.
And then how did 12 change to 24?
Times 2.
So do it to the top. 7 times 2 is
14.
Now, these are still my fractions. These are still my problem. But these three, that's my work. It's helping me know. These aren't my answers. This is my work. Now, go back, flip over, look at this question. It told us to put it in order from greatest to least. So look at these equivalent fractions. Which one of those is the greatest?
1924.
So you should have on your line, on your paper, guess what should be first?
1924.
Then, which one's going to go next in the middle?
3/4.
3/4. Don't write this. This is only my work. I've got to write what it matches to from the problem, which is 3/4. Then, which one's my smallest?
7/12.
14/24, which is really
7/12.
7/12. Do you remember how to do it that way? That way, you will for sure get the right answer on these because they love to use these. All right. Let's look at number 8. Find the least common multiple to compare the fraction. So we got to get the smallest on this one. So we can go back to the front side of our paper for this. You have to find the smallest here. It moved my number 9 off of here. Now, least common multiple for 6 and 3. What is it?
12. 6.
It is 6. I certainly hope the rest of y'all are paying attention because nobody else is talking. That should be below it. Do you have that below it? If you didn't, you didn't follow instructions. Now, Parker said 6. Why did Parker pick 6?
Because they both have a multiple.
If I skip count by 6, will I get to 6?
Yes.
If I skip count by 3, will I get to 6?
So you put that
You can't pick anything less than 3 or less than 6. But you can pick exactly 6, right? Yes, sir, Parker?
I've done 12 the first time.
You would still get the right answer, but since it did ask you for least common multiple, work this one too. All right, so 6 and 6 because it's asking for that least common multiple. Now, normally, I don't care which one you get as long as you get a common multiple. All right, so how can 6 stay a 6?
times 1.
So 5 times 1 is? Wake up.
5.
You're going to have a test on this next week. Y'all can sit there if you want to. It doesn't sink in if you're just sitting there staring at the board. You've got to talk to me. You should be asking questions if you don't know. And if you do know, we're going to see because homework's going to be very similar to this. How can 3 change to 6?
Times 2.
So 2 times 2 is?
4.
So now I have like fractions. Which one's bigger, 5, 6, or 4, 6?
5, 6.
5, 6.
And as long as you kept them lined up, then your sign's going to be the same. All right, and our last one, what are we using to compare?
Benchmark.
Benchmark fractions. What are benchmark fractions?
Number 1.
Nope.
Wait, common fraction.
Write that above it. Now, 2/5. Hold up your 5 fingers again. If you have, all right, so this is what I'm trying to get you to see with your hand. If we're having to divide 5 in half, this would have to be half, right? So I have this side, that's half, and then I have this side, that's half. Now, hang on. Half of 5 is 2 whole fingers, right? And then part of 1. Do you agree?
Yes.
So, what's my fraction on my paper? 2/5. So if you only have 2 fingers, have you made it over that halfway point yet?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
No. So is 2/5 more than a half or less than a half? Less. That's what I'm trying to get you to see with your hand. Is it doesn't go over that halfway point, so it's less. Because the odd numbers are a little hard. So this one's smaller than a half. But what about 5/8? What little bitty number should we write up there?
4.
Is 5/8 bigger or smaller than 4/8?
Bigger.
So if this one is smaller than a half, this one's bigger than a half, which one does it need to eat? The 5/8. Now, let's say, Ryder, are you paying attention? Let's say that this was on our test, like our map test, and it tells you, hey, use benchmark fractions to compare.
I had that on my.
I've done the opposite.
Find your common denominator to check it. How can 5 change to 40? Times 8. You don't have to write this, I'm just showing you. How can 8 change to 40? Times 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. I know it's telling you to use benchmark fractions, but if you can check it and at least get the answer right, you might miss the part about the benchmark, but you got the answer right, okay? Like, don't feel like you're cornered into using one thing, because you can still double check your answer with everything. Everything I've taught you in math, you can double check your answer if you don't understand one way, right? Okay, so this is very important, right? Study on this.